Welcome to Comics League. I'm Jared, and today we are talking about the age-old debate. I'm going to argue in this video that Man of Steel is a fantastic Superman movie. Yes, I am going there. All my Snyder stuff is super popular. I love his movies. You know what? I'm arguing that. So I'm going to start off by saying that this movie, the first reason why I really like this movie is because it gives a modern interpretation to the Superman origin story. Now, what do I mean by modern? Well, for one thing, it's realistic. This is what would happen if you had someone that had the powers of a god and he showed up. Of course, there'd be people distrusting him. It was kind of introduced in Man of Steel. But you would also have the destruction. Yes, I do mention that I like the destruction because it show for one thing. Hang on, actually, I'm going to address this the destruction later. But going on, when you have Man of Steel, Clark goes through the journey that all of us go through. All of us have gone through a time where we're growing up and we don't know what we're meant to be. We don't know what we're meant to do. And it's actually very humanizing for Clark to go through that. As you know, Clark's this Kryptonian god. So any opportunity to actually bring him down to earth is actually a good idea. Next, with what he did with what Superman goes through. He is Superman throughout the entire movie. What I mean by that is that, like, here's a good example. It's a scene that's often overlooked when he's basically being a waiter at a restaurant in Canada. And so, overhear the military soldiers talking about the Kryptonian ship that was crashed. There was this one, like, very rowdy guest that's hitting on a waitress. Clark comes over, intervenes, says, "I'm gonna have to ask you to leave." The dude shoves him, doesn't move. One of the most hilarious scenes in the movie. He just shoves him, and it's like, no. And then Clark just sits there and lets the belligerent guest pour beer on him. Although he does follow it up with by wrapping his truck out around a telephone pole. But here's the thing: Clark could have like smacked that dude around without using his full strength. He chose not to. So there's that. The third fact, and this is going to get into the one destruction. Actually, here's why I didn't mind the destruction, because it showed how inexperienced this dude is. Because he only got figured out who he was like 2 days ago. So of course he'd be inexperienced and not really know how to fight. Versus the Kryptonian soldiers that have been trained their entire life for combat. In fact, Zod says it in the last battle, which was fantastic. It's basically that's why he's like getting knocked into buildings, not saving people, because he's never been in a fight before where the other side was as powerful as he does. So he doesn't know what to do. That's my problem with a lot of superhero fans. I've noticed they want these characters to immediately start off at they're the experienced heroes that we know and love from all these different movies. And I got news for you: Christopher Reeve Superman screwed up many times in the movies, many times. People ignore that because it's not directed by Zack Snyder. That's my biggest point of contention, is that people are willing to excuse many different many different like points that they normally make about Zack Snyder. If it's not about Zack Snyder, what I mean is that if the director's not Zack Snyder, they'll make allowances that they wouldn't ordinarily make. Like they'll say, "Well, that was great when Christopher Reeves did it." Like, say for instance with BVS, "Oh, my favorite Batman's Michael Keaton. I hate how Ben Affleck killed people." Really? Do I have to bring that up? They're willing to excuse it for Michael Keaton just because that happens to be their favorite Batman. And that's fine if you want to come out and say, "I really wasn't a big fan of Ben Affleck Batman. I like Keaton better." That's fine. At least you're being honest at this point, instead of just lying and saying, "Well, Batman doesn't kill, but I love the Batman that kills." That's my other point. That's my third point. Fourth point: it established why Clark supposedly doesn't kill people. Here's why. Can you imagine? Okay, here's the arc of the movie that I'm going to establish. I'm going to outline how this works. Okay, so you have Clark. He's growing up. He gets powers. All the powers manifest. Obviously he doesn't know he's a Kryptonian because he was sent here as a baby. He finds out he's a Kryptonian. His father, he has all these experiences in life. He goes off, finds out who he is, who is meant to be Superman. He this whole time he thinks he's the last surviving Kryptonian. Then this ship full of Kryptonians show up and start like fighting him, supposedly making him think that, hey, join us and we can rebuild Krypton. And actually, what's interesting is that this whole movie is to basically establish that Krypton was a flawed society. You see in the beginning of the movie, and Zod kind of hints at it, that the Kryptonians were like, essentially what it was, you were born into your role, meaning you were genetically manipulated so you'd be a good warrior, a good diplomat, a good, I don't know, merchant, something like that. You guys get what I'm saying? So you're genetically predisposed. Clark was the first natural birth in like 1,000 years. And that's what Jor-El tells me. He's like, you have the potential to be whatever you want to be. So that's the first. So these guys are trained warriors, these Kryptonians that showed up. They fight Clark. Clark supposedly best them. It was actually kind of cool. Was that again? Actually, I want to go back to the flawed society thing. When the ship is about to kill Lois Lane, and when she's in the C-130 transport plane, and they have Superman's like pod ship, and they're gonna ram it into the world engine and create a singularity. Zod's ship shows up, and he's about to blast them. Superman goes in, and then he's about to destroy the ship. When Zod goes, "If you destroy this ship, you destroy Krypton." And what does Superman say? Krypton had its chance, and that's Superman choosing humanity over Krypton. He's saying, no, I'm not a hero of Krypton anymore. I'm a hero of Earth. And if I have to pick between the two, I'm gonna pick Earth. And this is actually this actually echoes a sentiment in Superman Wonder Woman and the New 52, because in that storyline, Batman tells Superman, there's a reason why I've always loved working with you, Clark, most, because you were raised here. Even if you have these fantastical powers, even if you're from another planet, here's the thing. You will always see mankind as your home team. You will always put us first. And that scene in Man of Steel perfectly, I think, echoes that point, which makes sense because what's interesting is that the Man of Steel movie was coming out around the time of the New 52. So I could see where he would be basing a lot of it off the New 52 Superman, which you guys all know that's my favorite version of Superman besides All-Star. Okay. Now, when he kills Zod, this is really key because Superman doesn't want to do it. He spends the entire fight trying to stop it. Zod will not stop. He even says, if Kal, this is the way it's going to go. Either you die or I do. And when he has Zod in that headlock and Zod is using that heat vision, he begs Zod, don't do it, man. Don't do it. Please. He's begging with him, tears running down his face. It's like, please don't do it, because he knows what he has to do to save that family. And then what does Zod say? Never. And what does Clark do? He closes his eyes because he doesn't want to see what he's about to do, and he snaps his neck. Then what does Superman do? At first, he's like in shock. He just killed the last of his kind. He kneels, and then he just lets out this pained scream, this hauntingly pained scream, and because he had just ended Krypton. Because remember, there was always a little bit, because throughout that movie, I'm sure Clark was like, hey, I'm not alone anymore. There are others like me. This entire movie, Superman feels alone, like there's no one that understands him fully because he has the powers. I believe Wonder Woman showed up in this movie. You guys know how I feel about Superman and Wonder Woman. But ultimately, what this leads to is that Superman is now alone. That's what's beautiful about that scene, is that he chose to be the last of his kind. Again, he chose mankind over Krypton. And here's the thing. After that, that's where he gets the no-kill rule, because he realizes that I don't want to do that again. Arguably, that's not always up to him. arguably he will be placed in those positions again. That's the point of being a superhero. You're going to be placed in those life or death situations, and you have to act. But I liked how Zack Snyder did that in that movie. Second off, the action scenes were unreal. Like, again, CGI holds up, and that's the way I was on MSK's stream a little while ago, and we were talking about CGI, the CGI in the MCU and the downgrade. And I said one other thing, and this is going to be a praise of Man of Steel, but also all of his movies, no matter DC or otherwise. This is what I tell about them. Say what you want about Zack Snyder as a filmmaker. His CGI always looks fantastic, and that even the most anti-Snyder people on that panel were like, "Yeah, that's true." Because here's what Zack Snyder understands. He understands camera work. He understands the importance of lighting. So he understands. Let's try to adjust this. He understands that you have to light a scene. If you light a scene a certain way, when you go back and post and start adding all the CGI and special effects, if you get the lighting right first, when you're shooting the movie, that's why he draws the entire movie. That's why this guy's a genius. He draws the entire movie. That way he already has the shot all set up. He already knows where like the light's coming from and everything. He has everything all set up on a piece of paper or a tablet, but you get what I'm trying to say. That way, when he goes in post, it's very easy to make that CGI look good. Heck, the Snyder cut. Look at Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf alone, forget the Flash scene. Steppenwolf alone, he was done in the midst of quarantine. Steppenwolf alone is evidence of this dude's artisanry when it comes to CGI. So there's that. And also, some will say he doesn't understand Superman or any of these characters. False. False. Just you're not willing to look beyond what you're seeing. What I mean by that is that if you look deeper, yes, he does understand Superman, because it was a Superman origin story. Yes, it was a different origin story, but it was one for the world that we live in. All of the origins. Here's the thing. Every single Superman origin movie, every one, including the Christopher Reeves one, is modern for the time it was done. Christopher Reeves makes sense in when it came out in the late 70s. The Superman animated series origin worked for the 90s. This one works for the world that we live in, or lived in 2013, but arguably we still live in that world. You get what I'm trying to do. In other words, every Superman story has modernized it for the time, for the way the world is. And that's what Snyder did. That's what he did. He made Superman modern and relevant again. Because here's the thing. I get that you want Superman to always be in that all-star Superman bubble. And I'll admit, Man of Steel Superman is a little different. But here's the thing, though. You have to make Superman relevant. You have to make Superman, like, relatable to people. Otherwise, they're not going to see his movies. They're not going to watch his thing in the numbers that they could be. Because let me put it this way. I was at the beach with Lad, like I think a year ago or so. And I remember this because it always stuck with me. We were talking comics with a few of his friends. And one of his friends goes, well, Superman's so boring. I mean, he's invincible. He has all the powers. And I basically went through the whole, no, Superman's also an ideal and stuff, but I'm not getting into that. What I mean is that that's the typical, like, conception of Superman. Even my sister feels that of Superman. So you have to do stories where it humanizes him to the average person. Because ultimately, you're dealing with someone that's nigh invincible. So ultimately, you do have to do these storylines where he's placed in human situations and has to react the way a human is. In fact, that's the thing about Man of Steel. He's placed in human situations and reacts the way we would in those scenarios. That's really one of the key points that I love about Man of Steel. And now I'm going to talk about, to conclude, the controversial Pa Kent being killed in the tornado scene. First, I'm going to explain that scene. Then I'm going to go into why it works. So Pa Kent, so at this point, Clark knows who he is. He knows he's not from this world. He doesn't know he's Kryptonian or anything like that, but he knows he's not from this earth. He is Pa Kent has shown him the ship. So, and this is can also dovetail into the whole line about how you should have let the school bus die. Pa Kent never said that. First off, I want to really hammer in that fact. Anyone that says that has not seen that scene. So what actually happens is that so the tornado comes down, and Clark could say John Kent knows that Clark can save his life, but remember, and Superman says it immediately after the scene. He says the people are not ready yet to know who you are, because in fact, early in the movie, Clark says, "Hey, John Kent says, listen, dude, when they find out about you, it's going to change the world." And this is actually echoed in Superman's Secret Origin by Jeff Johns, one of the best origins ever, based roughly around the Christopher Reeve Superman. And you see a flashback to Pa Kent and he tells Clark, choose very, very, very carefully your moment to reveal yourself to humanity, because you only get one chance. And Clark and this is echoed in that scene in the tornado. He basically and Clark basically respects his father enough to say, I may not like it, but you know what? I'm gonna obey my father. It's a very like father-son like movie too, but Pa Kent was like, no, it's not ready yet. Same thing with the bus. He knew that Clark did the right thing, saving those kids. He's like, what he was essentially saying, he wasn't saying don't save them. He's saying, I hope you're sure. I hope you're careful, and I hope you're sure what you're doing. Because once you reveal yourself to them, you know what? That's it. And he said maybe, but he also said like maybe not or something like that. He didn't say you should have left them to die. And I really am annoyed whenever people bring that up, because that's not what he said. Watch the movie. That is not what he said. He said maybe, and then he just said, or maybe this, but he went on. That wasn't the only thing he said. And he wasn't even saying let them die. He knows that Clark could save them easily. But that's neither here nor there. Those are really my reasons why I love Man of Steel. And I think it cemented Henry Cavill as my Superman. And what I think Henry Cavill is my generation's Christopher Reeves. In other words, he's the one that embodies Superman. Even in his movies, he got the Superman arc, and yet, and I know that Cavill has come out and said he wants to do more classic Superman stuff. And that was Zack's plan for Man of Steel too. That was going to be Superman, like, for one thing, reestablishing his role in the world because he's back to life after Justice League. But now he gets to fully embrace being Superman. In fact, here's the thing. What does John Kent say when Superman gets the black suit and is about to take off? He goes, fly, son. It's time. You need to show this world who you are. He's saying, it's time, Clark. Do it. So finally, Superman got that moment. So now in the next movie, if you guys want to see Henry Cavill, Zack Snyder have Henry Cavill in this role, you should really be campaigning for Warner Brothers to release the other movies. Because guess what? That's what would happen. In Man of Steel 2, that's basically Superman being Superman. Or being the Superman that we know and love. So that's why everyone should be tweeting restore the Snyderverse, because that's what that revealed. That's what that brings back. Not just Justice Leagues 1, 2, and 3. Everything. So that's where I'm going to leave it. I think that's a good place to leave it. And I hope I at least got you guys thinking about Man of Steel a little bit like that. If you consider my arguments, or if you have your own, drop them in the comments. Or if you don't like Man of Steel, drop them in the comments and find out why. But be respectful. I don't want anyone calling people cultists or anything like that. I just want complete respect, because if you respect me, I'll respond to your comments, and if you're respectful, I'll provide a retort. That's all I ask. Just be respectful, and I think we can have a nice debate about it. Or if you love Man of Steel, drop down how you feel about Man of Steel. And that's where I'm going to leave it, guys. All right, stay heroic, everyone. Bye-bye.